Creepers. In the early morning hours on October 28th of 1909, this home, the Harps home, became an epicenter for a force that was not to be reckoned with, the Devil Boy. Located at 546 Northwest Marshall Street, this home would see things that no other home in Portland had seen before, a phenomenon. For 4 hours, and roughly 2,000 eyewitnesses would witness 11-year-old Ernest Harps do some very demonic and very interesting things.
All right, we are here in Northwest Portland, and like in the beginning of this video, very creepy story, and this area is full of history, and the buildings around here have a lot of historic history as well. But just behind me is basically where 11-year-old Ernest Harps would be seen doing some very weird, eerie, some may say even like demonic activity, and it all happened right behind me. So let's go up here and see what it looks like now, and I'll tell you guys a little bit more about what happened on that October day. So we are in Northwest Portland, and we are heading towards Marshall Street, which this is all alphabetical through here, and we were just on Northup, so we are slowly making our way up to where at the time the building would have stood. So right here, pretty much all new development, but right back here behind these fences would have stood the building that all happened in. October 28th of 1908, 11-year-old Ernest Harps was witnessed by over 2,000 people doing some really, really odd behavior. And in fact, the police were actually called after 2 hours of investigating the scene right here, right behind these gates, which is now a brewery, I believe. But many years ago, this was the exact location to a ton of paranormal activity. At the time, the 11-year-old was living with his grandfolks, his grandma and grandpa here in Northwest Portland. His mom, being a single mother, having difficulty raising Charlie on her own, decided it would be best for him to move in here at the time. At the time, it was a double-story house. I believe it was like 7-bedroom, so a pretty big home just for the three of them. And on that morning, October 28th, they all witnessed some very, very strange occurrences. Now, the building, the property, basically is this whole area here. So I'm guessing the building probably sat in this general vicinity. Probably, you can see where these buildings are, pretty older. So I'm guessing it was probably right out behind here. In fact, this was the location to Slabtown Music Venue as well throughout the years. So the house was, demolished years previous to make room for that location, which is no longer as here as well, been torn down. This is actually the old sign here for the venue, which is really kind of creepy, because if you look at it, I see a cross. I also see some old, signage relics, but just from standing here, I'm already getting some eerie vibes from that day. Now, apparently when the spectators came after the Graham folks got worried, they actually called some relatives over to kind of just, see if they were seeing what they saw. They wanted, some more opinions on the situation. So as the other relatives gathered, so did, neighboring residents from the neighborhood, and began to basically check out this, some say demonic paranormal activity coming from right here. They said that they would watch Ernest go into the rooms, and as he was, frequenting each room, he would look at objects and they would literally just fly off the shelf, or he would be standing there and all of a sudden a vase or a flower or some object on the wall would crash down and break. And so he moved around the rooms and basically, was in shock himself, didn't realize, what was going on. So after 4 hours of this activity happening and over 2,000 people becoming witness to this event, these folks were scared. This wasn't just, one person's opinion or two people. This was a ton of folks that were witnessing this activity, happen right on this block. And so eventually the police were called, and when the police showed up, they, couldn't believe their eyes as well. And in a lot of the original Oregonian newspaper articles that I actually will do my best to insert some of the articles and some of the reports for that day, the police not only witnessed, things breaking and falling, but they watched chairs slide across the floor. And so they were stunned, and the grandparents were so overwhelmed by this that they actually decided it would probably be best for Ernest to go with the police officers. And in fact, they took him to, which was at the time the Valley Hotel here in Portland, just to kind of keep him safe and away from, all the gawkers and people that weren't too quite sure what was going on, and frankly quite scared of the boy. So they figured that, it'd probably be in his best interest to kind of keep him away. But this all happened right here on this block, which is so creepy to me, to think that, all that weird paranormal activity happened right here. And, being a couple days from Halloween as well gives it even more of that kind of eerie, creepy vibe. He was actually picked up by two psychiatrists, doctors, that would begin to do a lot of psychological work on him and try and figure out, if this was something that was, coming from his source, or was this just such a random occurrence, as the property or the house. Was it him? Was it the house? And they did a lot of extensive interviews on the boy throughout the years. And one of the doctors actually claimed that he was faking it. But his mother disagreed. His mother was actually pretty well startled by this. And same with the grandma and grandpa, to where they believed it was probably in Ernest's best interest to, stay with the psychiatrist rather, and see if he had any kind of, psychic or paranormal occurrences as well when he lived with him. But there was never any really more activity other than that day. So they were just dumbfounded, really. And Like I said, was it just a mere coincidence, or was it evil spirits? He caused a lot of commotion and a lot of really disturbing things that day, where folks were, you know, they were in awe, but they were all also very, very scared.
Creeper out for now. Happy Halloween. Ha 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 ha.